Well, here we have a briar block. It's been clamped in the chuck. The smoke hole's been drilled. The mortise has been drilled. And I'm getting ready to bring the tailstock up to help study it so I can turn the shank for the stummel. I was worried about copying the other guy with my background music that just happened to be on in the shop, but he had Mozart and this is Bach. Always rotate things by hand. I don't always remember that lesson, and sometimes I come to grief, but at least I remembered this time. My lathe is so big and heavy it made the whole earth shake there when I turned it up too fast. I'm trying to find a good speed here. I think I'm running right around 1500 RPM. I'm using the bowl gouge at about a 45-degree angle here. And I'm doing a shearing cut. I'm coming in nice and light, letting the tool do the work. No forcing of anything. Now, it sort of looks like I'm just moving my hands, and you can't see this because I need a really wide-angle lens, but I am moving my whole body through the cut. And with this being burl, you can go in both directions. You'll see some scraping cuts in a little bit that will illustrate that even better. At this point, I'm just worried about getting the thing round, keeping my fingers out of the way of that part spinning around on the right at the head of the chuck there. The tool rest is a good method for that, but I still have to pay attention to where the gouge is going. If you notice, as I come into the junction there between the tobacco bowl and the shank, I roll the gouge over just a little bit. That keeps it from catching when it meets up with that wall. And there you can see it roll again. Just a little bit of a twist of the wrist, and it rolls it in there into a scraping position so you can come right up against the wall without having to worry about that unsupported edge being grabbed by the wood. I'm also using the tool rest as a fence for my hand, and that's what makes it easy to get a straight line, or easier, I should say. Now I've measured for the diameter that I want the shank to end up being, and I've set my calipers for that diameter, and now I'm parting down in several places to establish that on the shank itself. This can look scary, but if you remember that the caliper is not a cutting tool and you don't press real hard, it is actually a very effective cutting method. I have the threaded arm of the caliper sticking out towards me. That way, if it somehow it does grab, it doesn't have to pass all my fingers as it comes whipping around. And now I'm just reducing that extra material with the bowl gouge again. And you can see with a nice sharp edge you get a real nice shaving off of this stuff. Now this is a scraping cut, so I can go in either direction with this, really move the gouge in both directions, however I feel comfortable. Notice that when I'm moving the gouge through the cut, if I lose the cut, I continue on through the motion. That's what gives you smooth, fair surfaces on a wood lathe. It's when you stop and try and get the tool back into the wood that you start digging a hole. Now I'm coming in with my really scary detail gouge. This thing will grab real fast without warning, but once you learn how to use it, it does a great job of getting in tight spots. And as I mentioned in my message, you don't have to have it ground nearly as sharp as I do to get a good cut with it, at least for this application. Okay, so the tailstock's out of the way. I'm coming in with a V-shaped scraper here. It has the same bevel ground on it as my round nose that I sent the picture of, and I'm just using it to cut a chamfer on the end of the shank. There's my big head in the way. And here I am fitting a Delrin rod. It is very tight. And I used a chamber reamer, or whatever they call them, on that too. So now here the block is rotated and it's ready to do the tobacco chamber work. Here I come in with the bowl gouge again, and watching out for my left hand there for that shank spinning around. It'll snap that right off, but it'll still hurt if it does. And again, I have the tailstock up there for support for as long as I can have it. That's a trick for seeing if it's round before you have to turn the lathe off to check. You might know that already. And at this point I'm just trying to get a cylinder so I can see how much wood I have to work with. Depending on the shape of your block, you may start right in on the shape you want to put on for your final shape, because you have to do that in order to use the wood to the best use. But in this one, it was easy enough just to turn the cylinder. A little bit of beeswax to make my tool slide easier. And if you come in with the tool held at the proper angle, you can butt the heel of the bevel right up against the part that you don't want to cut very safely. And that helps you get in as tight as you can see I'm getting in there. I've even been known to rub it against the jaws every now and then. But the cutting edge will cut metal, and you might know that already too. I know that from hard experience. Now I'm going to come around and face off the top. Don't have to do this, but since this is going to be a finished rim pipe, I can clean up that top and see what I'm working with. If this was a natural edge, a plateau, I would just start right in with the hollowing. Now I'm marking for the tobacco chamber. I was aiming for 3/8 radius, which would give me a 3/4 inch hole. This came out to be about 15 or 13/16. Make sure the scraper is flat. If you have that back edge dropping down or back end dropping down, that's an invitation for disaster when that edge comes in contact with the wood. You would ask about relief angles. If the scraper is right on center line, which is where it should be for your best cuts, it'll be relieved naturally on the outside. It's a little bit more of an issue on the inside, but with the bevel that I have ground, it usually doesn't turn out to be a problem. And if I recall correctly, I think the left edge is ground back a little bit further than the right edge. But you can see it does a pretty quick job of taking wood out. A drill bit would probably be faster, but this is the way I learned to turn bowls, so I guess I'll turn pipe bowls this way for now. Okay, the chamber's been drilled or turned, and I'm going to come back and show you just a little bit more shaping on the outside. This is not really a shape that would lend itself well to a volcano, but just to give you an idea about shaping it like a volcano, for example. And I know you ask about apples. An apple curve would be the exact opposite of the volcano curve. Well, maybe not the exact opposite, but you know what I mean. And here I'm moving my whole body. You really can't see that, but you can see that my hand is not moving in relationship to my turning muscle there, which is the part of body that my hand is resting against. But this is what gives you the smoothest, fairest cuts. I don't know how that transition got in there. I thought I made them all the same. And here I'm just going to put a bevel on the inside of the rim with that V tool that I used earlier on for the chamfer on the shank.